Welcome to the Haunted Hacker Podcast version Jonathan Scott V 1.2, I guess. This is what, the second time or third time, Jonathan?
Yeah, but I think the third time.
Third time. So we'll just call it Jonathan V3.
All right.
And tonight we have a co-host, special co-host. A lot of you remember when I interviewed Zach M not too long ago from Cyber Defense Services. Tonight we have Hector Santiago, who is going to be my guest co-host and probably a fixture on the show at some point, hopefully. Welcome tonight, Hector, and thanks for joining me. So as far as news goes, not a whole lot. I just got back from Pennsylvania, Hershey, Pennsylvania, speaking at PDE, which is the Pennsylvania Department of Education Conference, and talking about risks and vulnerabilities that kids face on the internet and the little hackers that we're breeding and the types of damage they can do to the networks of school. And you'd be surprised how many people were shocked to hear what they're capable of. It was really quite scary. And then today, I literally just finished up filming for a docuseries out of Europe. And we filmed from early this morning till just like an hour or so ago. So it's been a pretty busy weekend. But it's exciting and it's good news. And the more people that we can reach with, security and make people aware of what's out there and the follies that they're facing and the dangers, I think that's really important, especially for kids. So without further ado, let's get started. Jonathan, it's been great to have you on the show previously, and we've talked about multiple topics when it comes to mobile security and kind of what you were doing then, and just dealing with trolls and all of the fanfare that comes with it. So why don't you give us an update and tell us where you're at, what you're doing now? It's been 3 or 4 months since we talked, and I know a lot's happened since then. So why don't you give us an update really quick?
Sure. So still hacking mobile and IoT. And recently I've been getting into crypto hardware wallet hacking. Nice. And so it's not only just the hardware aspect, but finding malicious applications that are out to steal cryptocurrency, seed phrases, just combing through your entire phone for anything related, right? Really interesting time right now. And Ellipal wallet was the first crypto wallet, the hardware wallet that I hacked, and they publicly acknowledged the hack and a really cool company. And since then, so I hacked SecUX and then a couple of others I've hacked as well. It's just not out yet. But so it's all really interesting because these hardware wallets are supposed to be super secured, and even with Ellipal, right? They literally said we are unhackable, right? And that's their claim. And well, of course, when you say that, it's just kind of like fuels the fire even more, right? And I signed an NDA to not disclose what the vulnerability was. And of course they paid me, right? And so, I respect it, but it's really interesting because I think that when you do say something like that, I mean, it kind of just pushes people harder, right? Mm-hmm. They're like, oh, we can't hack this, really? And but working with them has been great. So they put me on their security team to send me a new product and do testing when that comes out. Same with SecUX, and so from there's led me into a lot of other crypto related things. So I was endorsed by Breadcrumbs, a blockchain forensics firm. And awesome. So I'm actually studying for my blockchain forensics exam. So I love that. I love doing it, right? So I mean, it all kind of goes together, right? So I mean, we transact with cryptocurrency on our mobile devices. It's the number one way that we transact with cryptocurrency. Mm-hmm. Hardware wallets just supposed to be safe. It's all just kind of IoT, mobile, all together. So it's been really fun, just jumping in with that crowd too. Staying away from the trolls you know, of course, there's always going to be some, but yeah, so I've really started, you know, really enjoy that kind of you know, space right now. It was a nice kind of a, you know, few months to learn something new, right? You know,
Yeah,
so
that's
yeah.
pretty awesome. And it's really important, I think, too, is to do something you really enjoy. You know, like Hector works for Zach, and you know, I had Zach on the show and listened to him talk about his passion for what he does and for his team. You know, it's pretty impressive. And you know, Hector, I'm sure that you know you're the same way. You do what you love, right?
Yes, sir. You know how it is. Whenever you got something in your mind, or whenever you got something that you are curious about, you
Hmm.
might as well explore it, which is like the whole cybersecurity, offensive, defensive,
Hmm.
and that's basically where we're at, and that's what gets you where you need to be.
Yeah, I think it's a curiosity. You know, you and I talked a lot about this, Jonathan, and our passion for what we do. Um, and I think what's really interesting is when you find something that you know is big, but you can't really talk about it, and how difficult it is not to talk about it. You and I discussed a vulnerability that I developed that wasn't really a vulnerability that existed, but I created it, and I've had to sit on that for a while now. It's really itching, and I really want to get it out to the public. But in doing so, I know that if I do it ahead of schedule or ahead of when it's expected, it could cause damage to both me and the products that it affects, right? So tell me about that when it comes to finding vulnerabilities in like blockchain or blockchain wallets. You know, do you sometimes sit and think about, you know, should I release this or should I not release this? You know, because I think with any researcher, that's the biggest question that we ask ourselves.
Right. So there's and this is, it's a good point, because I know that the last time that we actually, our first podcast, I was talking about, you know, I always release things to the public first, and then, you know, from there they can, but when it, there's a point that I, you know, I realize I can't do that, right? So particularly with this case, so if people are probably listening to this and, well, it's a hardware wallet, what's the big deal? Well, these are like, and these are Android based hardware wallets, right? So it falls literally right in line with mobile, right? So if you're a mobile hacker, pick up one of these wallets, and then you can imagine, right? That you can imagine how, well, vulnerabilities are just crazy. So, but yeah, so I couldn't actually, you know, I don't usually sign NDAs, right? I don't usually do that. It's kind of like was against my ethos, but in this sense, like it was it was such an issue that, yeah, I could not let that out. And I worked with the team for a while. Actually, it was people had no idea, right? So when it came out, people were saying like, oh wait, what? It's not secured. But the thing is we worked together to the extent that we we made sure that the patch was in place by the time that they released the news, right? So there was already a patch in place, and so no one could say, "Oh, well, my wallet was compromised." Well, you know, push the patch, you know, and you know, new products are actually released with the patch, and you know, I tested the patch, you know, the whole bit. But yeah, when it comes to like finances and financial, you know, crypto companies you know, I view it as like a financial institution. We've got to be very, very mindful of that, because yeah, as you know, that this money's just leaving these institutions. And yeah, it is very, very important to use discretion when you're running these kinds of vulnerabilities. It's not like a you know, some sort of a, maybe some sort of a bypass, like an FRP bypass or something. This is a whole nother level, right?
Yeah,
So
and when you look at like sanctions, like the U.S. puts sanctions on North Korea and China all the time, right? And what's the first thing they go after? They go after cryptocurrency. You know,
absolutely.
you get the Chinese popping up crypto mining farms and you know trying to hack into wallets to steal crypto. And I think that's the route that we're going to go. You know, I think eventually the U.S. dollar is going to end up succumbing to the economy that we're in right now. I mean, it's tanking as we watch it. And then when you watch Russia with what's going on with Russia and Ukraine, you know, they've been pretty much disconnected from the world banking institutions. So what's there left to do besides go to crypto? You know, the U.S. can't control that completely. The sanctions don't work on that side. So that it's a natural transgression. And I think it's interesting too. I think that we need to pay more attention to the blockchain and to the security of the blockchain, because, you know, we all three of us know that the blockchain is not 100% secure. And if the FBI is able to go in and steal people's cryptocurrency from them after they do a ransomware attack, that obviously it's not secure if they can do that. But one thing I found interesting, I had someone send me not too long ago, a guy gifted me an NFT. And it was really interesting. I've never seen this before. I'm not really in depth into NFTs or anything like that. But it was basically like a ghost, right? And it developed over a period of time, and now it's become this little character. And he's recommended, you know, a wallet to maintain this NFT in. So it just, NFTs are really confusing for, I think, most people. So why don't you guys? I'm sure, Hector, I'm sure you know about NFTs. Jonathan, I'm sure you know about NFTs as well. Why don't you guys lay out for me exactly what NFTs are on a layman's level, to where people watching, the viewers and listeners, can understand exactly what they are and maybe the risk involved with NFTs. I'll let you guys discuss that and then hash that out.
You go, Jonathan. Because
right.
I'm not that great with NFTs.
Sure.
However, I try to figure out how to just copy and paste the NFT. That's
Sure.
that's what most people with like our mindset might probably want to do. I know a lot of people that like actually have their doubts about NFTs.
Sure.
But at the same time, like myself, like I'm not like the whole like, oh, the NFT master for this kind of stuff. Like I will probably code an NFT. Fact, like it's just a link list, point it to each other, hash it, and then the hash number, just like I'll probably code it, no problem. But like I'm still like understanding and developing like how can like this like thing, like how this like piece of code that is hash cannot be secure or hacked, because like you can even nowadays, if you tell the computer to potentially just like if the hash change, you can make a function to tell it to go back to the last number that it was. That's just straight code programming. So I got a whole bunch of doubts too when it comes to the whole NFT.
Yeah, I think so. When we say NFT, people generally always jump towards like a piece of art, but an NFT is a contract, right? That's what it is, right? An NFT is a smart contract, and you know, let's just take, for example, written in Solidity, and so the assets that you can create attached to an NFT are what we understand as like NFT art, NFT music. And so, for example, why would anybody want an NFT, right? Well, it's a JPEG, right? It's, people are like, this is a scam, this is crazy, right? But this is where the contract comes in. So let's just say that I'm sure you're all familiar with Photoshop and, you know, layers that you can create. Imagine now you're taking that ghost, right? Someone sends you a ghost, and the body shape is one layer. The background is another layer. The eyes, the mouth, maybe has wings or any other details. And let's just say we have now like 12, you know, to 20 different, you know, layers. And each one of these are part of, you know, create the asset, the full asset, right? So these are individual characteristics, right, within that create that NFT. So the NFT art, that is. So the smart contract will say, this is the percentage of the piece of art that, let's just say 10% of this art are eyes, you know, 5% are a mouth and, you know, background or whatever it may be. And so all of these characteristics are held in this contract. And so if you don't receive exactly what's in that contract, well, you know that you've been shammed. And this is what makes these pieces of art unique. So and this is where it becomes like very rare, or maybe like a, you know, one of a kind, you know, asset. So you know, let's just say that, you know, people can make 10,000, it's like that general number, 10,000 NFT images, and then just kind of run through a script, and then they take all those individual assets, the eyes, the mouth, and everything, and then they just randomize it for 10,000 different, you know, images. Now, that's okay, but where, let's just take like a Bored Ape, for example. And those, you know, the Bored Apes are, you know, the hottest, you know, NFT art pieces out right now, and they're taking it to another level, right? So so now we have this it started with this image, right? This image has a contract bound to it and say, hey, this image is unique. So now the artists are actually have another avenue. I can't see it because of your fuzz or their blur.
Yeah, I'm going to unblock the blur really quick so you can get an image of what he's talking about as far as the crypto art goes, which is really quite interesting.
Yeah.
So I was sent this. It's on OpenSea, and this is what. Let's see if we can get a decent shot of it here. It's not. There we go. You can kind of see it. It's a Ghost Friends. And so when I first got it, there was nothing there, and it developed over time, and that's what I have now. So that represents the smart contract he's talking about.
Yes, absolutely. So yes, so there's a smart contract behind, you know, behind this piece of art. Now, this is where it gets a little interesting, because, all right, so let's just say that on OpenSea, there's a placeholder image. Okay, that placeholder image, it's what you're expecting to purchase, right? But there are times where what you expect to purchase is, by the time it finally the smart contract executes and the funds are actually you actually transact, you get a link, right? So these images are held either on Web2, either in an AWS server, or on a, you know, air quotes, like a Web3 IPFS server, which is basically a peer-to-peer hosted server. And so that link that you get ends up in that, once the contract is executed, that's it, right? That's, you know, that's it's on chain, and that's what you bought. And you bought like you bought, you know, a speck of something, and then they'll do the same rug over and over. So they're selling back that, you know, super fancy piece of art, but end up sending you something, you know, like a speck. That's just even one way how these things can happen, because inside that smart contract, you have 24 KB worth of data that you can actually put into a smart contract. You cannot go beyond that, or it's just not, it's not possible right now, hopefully in the future. But with that said, that's where those links come in. So it kind of, there's a lot of issues with that. So, but then again, there's also even code that can be written into these smart contracts that says, all right, I'm going to, maybe I'm going to sell you an ape, but I'm going to write a piece of code that's actually going to reverse that. And so so what's going to happen is once the transaction happens, there's a reversal that's going to actually happen within the contract. And I've seen it many times. And so they get their ape back, you get, your bag gets taken. And so this is why it's very important to make sure that if you're going to be purchasing an art asset or a music asset or a utility, right? And utility even is like a physical thing, or some sort of a earning of a timeshare or whatever it could be, that you have someone audit that contract. And if it's not been audited, right, by a professional service, let's just say Open Zeppelin, for example, then this is something that you really need to be mindful of, because you can be taken advantage of. And it happens every single day. I cannot even tell you, like I've worked so many different cases. Just, yeah, it gets pretty bad, but there's a lot of advantages to the NFTs that I can see. even in the future. Now, even with the Bored Apes, right? So the Bored Apes have created a token now, which is the ape token. And now they're opening a restaurant in California. And it's been said that they'll be using that ape coin, so you can actually transact with ape coin. And it's going to be really interesting, so now they're kind of moving on into different things, but again, that coin is behind a smart contract, right? So that smart contract actually allows you to transact and buy and sell. You buy and sell ape coin with a smart contract. There's always a smart contract behind this whole thing. So
yeah, it's pretty interesting. So like when that was sent to me, I thought, okay, someone's trying to either hack me or take advantage of me, right? Because he was giving me the NFT. It wasn't like I purchased it. It was given to me. And with Ghost Friends, it kind of develops over time. So when I first got the link, there was nothing there. And as time goes by, that NFT comes to light, or it grows. And then I got a link for a wallet to keep that NFT in. But when you first get into it, there is a lot of moving parts to it. And for the layman and the people who don't understand what it's all about, it could be mind-boggling, right? So my first reaction when I got that link was, should I click on this shit? Like, I don't know this dude. Should I click on it? It's a gift. How many times do I get a free gift? But I took a chance, and
you got what's called an airdrop. That's
yeah,
what they call an airdrop. Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are awesome because they're free, right? And the value of them could just skyrocket. So you actually have something pretty valuable on your hands. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was pretty cool because I people give me stuff, but usually there's something attached to it, right? Just like I give people stuff, and there's normally some kind of reverse communication coming from it. But yeah, it was a total gift, and it gave me a chance to really look into it and see what it was all about. And I think like you said, the world of NFT is interesting. But there are a lot of chances to get screwed over in NFTs as well when it comes to smart contract. So I was named CISO of a company in Scotland that was a smart contract company. It was a tokenization of assets, right? So what happens is, like, let's say a piece of information is held within this server, and each person that has access to the information, it's tokenized, right? So if you crack that token, or if you hack that communication, there's literally no data attached to it because it's tokenized. But at the time, it was such a young company, and I complain about it all the time. I literally worked for them for free, and to find out it was literally just to get them into Financial Times magazines. They used me to get somewhere else. It was really shitty. But I learned a lot in the process about blockchain and tokenization and where we're going as a civilization, which brings to mind another great concept. And Jonathan, I haven't talked to you about this very much, but so when I had Zach on, Hector works with him, and Zach's a CEO, and he actually, I think I told you, he has a data center, a cloud that literally runs in his van and is run off of solar power, which I thought was fucking mind-blowing, right? Like, how many times you see technology like that floating down the street? Like AWS on wheels is what I thought of. So Hector, why don't you take a moment and tell us about that concept, and both of these, like NFTs and blockchain, moving data centers and clouds to mobile platforms, are all very groundbreaking, very cutting edge. And like Jonathan, we talked earlier, when people have these ideas, people, usually, crack jokes at it, or try to say it won't work, or try to say this is imaginary. We talked about the flat Earth idea, and in Galileo's, look at view of the Earth, and how people are still thinking that the Earth is flat. But these concepts are new concepts, and a lot of people are like, oh, they're crazy, but it'll never work. So Hector, tell us about what you have going on with the cyber defensive initiative, and what you guys are working on, because to me, I think it's a gold mine.
So our stuff is very different than what everybody else do. Some of the stuff that I can share will be like there's such a thing like a copy and paste data center. uh, that you can just um, you can just grab it uh, from somewhere else. So instead of now you going to AWS or Microsoft or whatever, uh, there's ways now that you can uh, just basically copy and paste the code, and you got a data center. Uh, that's like one of the biggest things, like uh, uh, NATO from Cloud Underground. They are promoting this thing like real big, because it's just good. Like it's not really need to have an actual uh, uh, servers and this kind of stuff now serving next to you. However, you can also host your own data center, and if you know how to uh, develop that code that goes behind it, then the only thing you have to do to share is just basically code, like just copy and paste, uh, which is one of the biggest things that now going on. Um, it's a different kind of cloud, but at the same time, uh, it's more like not really the whole big Amazon or big Google. It's an easier, more secure way than the bigger companies. Like for example, the bigger companies get hacked by the 16-year-olds, then you're gonna know that, like, hey, you know, like what's going on here, like how this thing is like happening. You don't know, you got no clue of what's going on, what's happening. And one, because it's closed source, so you don't really know where you're talking to, versus whenever you have your own copy and paste data center, you know your code, you know what doesn't go in the data center, you know if somebody attack it, and whenever you have control over that stuff, you can react however you want to react. And I know some of you guys, you guys probably know that the cybersecurity industry is like real dirty. It's like people trying to hack you, people try to attack you, and like some of the big companies, they can really, they have a lot more to lose versus having a if you were to have your own copy and paste data center, or somebody that can manage it, it will be different, because there's not really that much limitations. It's a small surface versus a big huge surface.
Yeah, and I think it's important because, you know, having you two guys on the show is really important to me, because you guys kind of represent the forward thinking, you know, let's push the envelope a little bit further. Let's find something new. Let's find something better. And I think big tech has stood in the way of innovation for so long in our industry that it's kind of stifled the voices of, you know, the grassroots initiatives like the cloud server, you know, like the mobile hacking, the type of research you do, Jonathan. And I think it's important that the world listens to the grassroots and what we're trying to put out there. That big tech is definitely going to try to stop and try to diminish and hide the fact that we can do this on our own. And I think that's the biggest risk to innovation into the future is, you know, we have a lot of bright minds out there like you guys that are really going after trying to innovate, trying to push technology to the next level. But big tech doesn't want that, because they want to shut down that thinking, because they control that space right now. Jonathan, you've seen that firsthand. You know, with like
100%.
Apple and some of the other vendors, that you put something out there and they're like, they try to quiet it, right?
Yeah. So actually, even recently, so I mean, you know, I was assigned 2 CVEs recently, and I'm waiting for my other CVEs. But I mean, it took me like almost 7 months, actually, almost 7 months from when I reported to actual assignment of these CVEs. Now, I'm in a battle with Samsung right now, because you know, one of the vulnerabilities that I've sent to them is a wiper. And this wiper has been around for 13 years in every single one of these Samsung devices. Now, here's the thing is, like, you know, people, there's actually there's a British guy. that really, well known. Gosh, I think he started the Hacker Warehouse. I think that's what it was. Yeah. And he said, and I was going to release the code because Samsung at the time was just, they weren't having it. They were like, nope, this is not an issue. This is the wipers or whatever. That's not a big deal. And he said, let me tell you, if you release this code, you're literally releasing a weapon out to the public. This guy's got like over 120,000 followers, super well respected, and telling me, you better think about releasing this, right? He said, yes, people have been using this to for phone repair, tactics, but what you created is a weapon. And he said it in a public tweet to me. And so what I actually created was I created a portable wiper. So I got a Raspberry Pi, and then the prototype is kind of raw, so an OTG adapter, and then on plugin for any Samsung device, boom, you're wiped, boom, you're wiped, boom, you're wiped. And people are like, oh, what the fuck? Nobody cares about this. You're stupid. You're an idiot. You're a fraud. You're stupid. You're a goddamn idiot. And I'm like, you're a fucking idiot. Because let me tell you why. You ever heard of juice jacking? You ever been outside of your fucking house and actually plugged into a goddamn like USB port in an airport? You ever gone to a public charging station outside of the United States? You're the fucking idiot. And so, I mean, it gets me all worked up because I'm like, you don't get it. If I can put it on a Raspberry Pi, we can put this on a Pico Pi, and then we can put that on a Nano Pi. And then from there, we can put it on just a freaking chip. Mm-hmm. And then we could put it in a public charging station. And then Samsung was like, well, this is allowed because, there's a passcode on the device and you can't get past the passcode. And I said, let me tell you this. And I gamed it out for them. And I actually did the proof of concept. And I said, I'm gonna put this on a timer. And so by the time that you're in your public charging station and you plug in the device, I already recognized that you're plugged in, right? And I showed them the code, I showed them the video, right? Because that's what they wanted. And I said, so while you're browsing your phone, unlocked, right? You're unlocked, your passcode's not on there, boom, you're wiped, that's it. And they're like, well, this is fair use. This is how there's a passcode on the device. I'm like, but here's the thing. I bypassed your access controls because if you're trying to wipe, right, it's going to you have to go into reset factory settings. You have to, if you're manually doing it properly, I bypassed that. Right. But here's the deal. This is an engineering function that has been out for 13 years. Yeah. They recognize it. They know it. And so I asked some help from some friends in Korea because in the United States, and, in other, Western countries, we don't appreciate these kinds of things as much as that. That's their daily driver over there. Mm-hmm. Samsung, LG, that's their daily driver. And when they found out about this, they went crazy. When they actually found out what my CVEs were for, they went crazy. In America, they're like, you're a fraud. You probably stole that. You get your goddamn. And I'm like, and over there, they're like, holy shit, how do we stop this? So right. I was consulting. I consulted with South Korea. I consulted with Ecuador, who another country that's really, heavily uses LG phones. And they said, how can we stop this? Because here's the thing, like LG only patched a couple of models, but this has been out, and the CVE says from Android version 1.0 to 10.0 for every single LG tablet and phone in the entire world, we can data wipe and we can backdoor to get authorized Android ADB access without you ever knowing. Yep. And so all these other countries besides the US, well, the US, I mean, Twitter is not the whole US, but they think they are. They think they are, right? But it's like the necessary evil, right? But yeah, so it's like, wait a second, this is really affecting people. And for people to say no one cares about your wiper, it's ridiculous. It's like you have literally never been outside of your basement, right? And the world works like this. I mean, sometimes you really do need to go to a public charging, or you're in the airport sitting there and there's a USB port right next to the chair that you're in. Come on, guys. Or even on the plane. on the plane. Yes,
Right?
that they're like, yeah, plug in. We offer USB, and then it's like, wait a second, come on. I saw, what I saw real quick. I saw today someone's Twitter, and it was they were showing a video. I think it was in like McKinney, Texas, and that someone had placed a faceplate over one of those VeriSign pads, at a gas station, and that faceplate, you can punch in your key code. It allowed you to still swipe, but that faceplate on the back of it was transmitting all those codes back, and it was literally an exact like smack replica, just sat right on top of it. And the attendant pulled it off, and she was like, "What the hell is this?" And I'm just like, you think that this can't you think that this is not happening now? Like, juice jacking has been around for almost a decade.
Yeah.
And if people don't know what that is, like, that's literally plugging in your device into a public charging station and stealing all your data. That's juice jacking. It's been around for over a decade. And if you don't think that, I mean, it blew my mind. Anyways, I got all worked up about it. But yeah, so it was something like novel that someone hadn't seen. No one had created a wiper like this until I made it. But when I finally showed it, they're like, "You're an idiot. No one's gonna use that." So, yeah,
so it's almost the reverse of slurping, right? So I remember we used to create the USBs that you would plug it into a laptop, and it would automatically grab everything from specific directories. Slurping.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
juicing is the same thing. It's just reversed.
Yeah.
And so what I find really interesting, right? We talk about Twitter and we talk about, how people react to certain things, and the disconnect and the combat that goes on social media when someone comes up with an idea or when somebody finds a vulnerability, and everybody wants to discredit that person or make that person look bad. I don't understand that. I'll never understand that. Instead of trying to discredit people, why not work with those people and figure out what they're talking about, give them a chance to talk, and
Yep.
give credit to what they're doing, because that makes us stronger as an industry. Instead of, we have a lot of people who want to be George Clooney's of cybersecurity, right? They want to be they want to be the person, but we don't need that. I mean, what point does that serve? What purpose is that? But when we work together, like you and I have talked about several different things that we're working on, and we toss ideas off each other, and that's the way that it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be knowledge share and collaboration, not
Right.
this combat where, oh, what you're doing is wrong, or that shit really pisses me off. And that's what we've come to in this industry is people are fighting to get a name in the industry, and by putting people down, they think that makes them look better, and it just destroys the concept, right? And I just, to be honest with you, Twitter is just an absolute like acid pot. Like, I hate even going there sometimes because all I see is people flaming each other. Just recently, I was going to speak at a conference in Atlanta, and we had a bunch of speakers lined up, and the people that I speak for are always diverse. You know me, Jonathan. I've always had diversity on my show. I make a point to give everybody a voice.
Yep.
But the people that were organizing the conference looked at the speaker list and realized that there was no diversity. But that wasn't their fault. They opened it up for speakers, and those are the people who put themselves forward to speak. And we had to really work hard at the end to try to figure out what we're going to do. And in the end, we thought, the CEO took a step forward and said, "Look, we're just going to postpone this event until we can get a very diverse selection of people, because that's what we believe in." But you would not believe the amount of flame that was going on about that situation. And here's a group of people. The co-host of the show is female, and it's like, what do you mean? It wasn't meant. It's not like they organized a group of people and said, "Okay, here's what we're going to do, guys. We're going to have a conference with nothing but white male speakers." That doesn't happen. We don't do that. But that's what our industry has come to. If you don't show that diversity, even though it's not intended to be that way, people get all upset. And I just I wanted to focus on that a little bit because of the fact that our industry has gotten so volatile towards certain people over the past 10 years that it just really disgusts me. And that's why I always make a point to promote people, right? I do a lot with Black Girls Hack, and I do a lot for that community. I do a lot for every diversity I can possibly embrace, because I know what it's like to be that niche or that not accepted in a certain industry. And I think as an industry, we need to pull together. I mean, look at our panel right here. We have enough diversity, to fuel anybody's conversation. And
sure.
that's the way it should be. But if that doesn't happen, it doesn't mean we have to step up and fight each other. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think too, when it comes to the technical aspect of things first, right? When we address that, is that there's there's kind of this hierarchy of infosec people that have been to like DEF CON for the past 10 years, and then they think that they're like run the show, and that they're the ones that actually know exactly what an RCE is, right? Like
Right.
most people can't even define an RCE, right? So an RCE is what they think is an RCE, right? And what, even if other people say that that's not an RCE, what doesn't matter, because you haven't been to DEF CON for 10 years, and,
Right.
and it's silly, right? It's literally silly. And it's the most asinine thing about Twitter. It's like when someone says, experts have said that you're wrong. What do you think? What about you? Like who's, and it's like, well, the experts, and it's this broken record, and it's like, who's the expert?
Right.
And then you never get to them, you never find them, you never actually, and it's just like, so it was funny because like you and I were talking about, Mike, is like, the more memes and the more fake Jonathan Scott accounts that you make on Twitter, the worse it is for you. Right. Literally, like, you're making it worse. If you're actually trying to make a claim against me, you're literally killing your claim. And other people are actually telling the trolls, you're making it worse, right? Like, they're like, we actually have a claim. We actually have something that he's a fraud. And they're like, but you're literally making it worse by like threatening my wife's life, or like stalking my family, or posting like bullshit, like whatever, making rap videos about me. Like, why are people going to believe anyone? Right. Yeah. So I talked to some media, and some pretty big media, and they asked me, they said, well, why are people saying this about you? And I sent them like, just leave it alone. If you want to watch the rap video, it's fine, but it's kind of one of those things. And so they're still going to interview me, because this is what it's come to, right? You're literally killing whatever it is that you're trying to do by you're making it worse. But here's the thing, again, there's still that gatekeeping. No, that's not a vulnerability. No, that's not an issue. Why not? Because I said it's not, and that's that. And I'm like, we're the same age, right? Like, you're a millennial. I'm a millennial. I'm 30. We're both 35, and we're both in high positions in companies. And I'm not like, you're my peer. I'm not a student of yours. Like, that let's get this real, right? Like, this is what's up. And it's just funny like that. Now, the diversity thing's really funny too. And this was really interesting, because I had a troll trying to start up like, oh, well, you hate Hispanics, you hate Mexican culture. Like, I'm Hispanic, right? Like, I got a white last name, but my family's Hispanic. Like, what are you talking about? Like, you don't like it makes no sense, right? Like, oh, you can't say that you like frijoles. You can't say frijoles like that. Why? Yeah. Because you're culturally appropriating that word, and I'm like, you're kidding me, right? Like that's how I was raised, right? frijoles, come at me.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I'm from Texas too. We call it frijoles. I'm from Texas.
Come on.
I call it habichuelas.
There you go, habichuelas. Right?
Yeah, it's just, that's how it is. And
that's how it is. Arroz con habichuelas, right?
And I don't even know you guys though, but like, honestly, I don't even get on Twitter. I do have an account on Twitter, but I probably got on it like last year, and my background too is different. I'm like military. I spent 20 years in the military, so
yeah, me too.
Oh, so you know how the whole diversity in the military is like, you just.
It's forced diversity. It's forced diversity in the military.
Oh yeah,
for sure.
I'm not gonna lie. I'm still exploring the whole civilian world, really, because it's just weird. And it's just like Jonathan said, like if you do something real good, then you get attacked. Yes, that's for some reason, or or if a certain company, some of the companies, the only thing you have to do if you want to look at a certain company, you want to work at a certain company, look at their diversity, and by looking you can tell if it's like, oh, this company probably gonna give somebody else opportunity, or this company like you can kind of sense that stuff. People don't really get that, you know.
Well, and Twitter is a bad place to begin with, because the people who have influence, right? People that are Twitter influencers, it's almost like they go and look for things to flame people about, just so they can get that horde, that mob mentality going, and get the pitchforks and the tiki torches going, you know?
Exactly.
And it pisses me off. So you remember when I got attacked, right? And it was guys from a group that I used to be with, and here they are like, oh, he's not from this group. We don't know who he is. And I'm like, wait a minute. Let's put this in perspective, right? You're taking a whole entire show of your podcast to spend on who I am. So that makes me important, right? So I must be somebody in your eyes, right? And so I talked to a lot of people about that. And it was funny. Like, everybody who has gotten to the level that I think that we're all at, right? You know, we're all getting that same type of attention sometimes. And I think what happens is when you get to a certain level, there's always going to be those people who want to get to that level, but don't want to work to get there. So they try to take you down. And by doing that, they think that's going to put them where you were at. But the problem is it doesn't work that way. We put in a lot of hours, a lot of knowledge, and spend a lot of time with a lot of people, helping people to get where we're at. I didn't get here because I stepped on a lot of people. I got here because I help people. And I continue to do it. I continue to give people a voice and a platform they can speak from. And there's always going to be those people that have that envy, right? That success envy that want to take you down. And Twitter, man, you talked about like the DEF CON guys who've gone there for like 20, 30 years, whatever, that, you know, stir up these hate mobs. You know, same with all groups. And it really just, I don't understand it. And that's that mob mentality that I just don't get. It's like they get off and they're happy about putting someone in an uncomfortable position and putting a bunch of people against them, to the point where I've seen people ran off the internet and people close their accounts because they can't deal with the trolls. But I refuse that shit. Like, come at me, and I'm just gonna ignore you until you're done, and I'm gonna continue doing what I'm doing.
Yeah, I saw that with a reporter, actually, a reporter that interviewed me. And it's funny because even like professionals were telling this Twitter mob, what's the problem with what Jonathan interviewed with this reporter? Like, what's the issue? Like, literally, why are you? And like, well, it's disinformation. It's like, no, it's not. Like, what Jonathan said was not. Like, we're talking about like legit professionals that are like have established names telling these people, why are you giving this reporter a hard time? And, you know, but they're just like, you know what, you're probably in on it with him. And it's just like, come on.
It's a conspiracy.
But it's what's funny is that people say, so I started blocking everybody because I was like, you know what, I don't need this bullshit. Like my feeds were so filled with just bullshit, hate. And I'm like, people can't actually see the message. So I started blocking and hiding the replies. People are saying, oh, well, you're just making an echo chamber. And I'm like, you know what, let me tell you something. If you're going into a mega church and you're screaming in a mega church, I love the devil, you know, the devil is real and inside of me, what the hell do you think is going to happen? You're going to get kicked out, because that echo chamber is what people want to hear. Right. That's why people are in that giant echo chamber. And that's why they're listening to Joel Osteen, because they want to listen to the message. And you know what? I don't have a problem blocking. And fuck everybody that says you should not block them because you're creating. No, fuck you, because I'm trying to get my message out and these trolls are stopping. So come into my church if you want to hear my message. And if you're going to cause a problem in my church, you're going to be taken out. And I don't have a problem, you know?
Have you ever gone to Twitter and reported people? Because I have. And Twitter always responds with, this doesn't violate our code of conduct. And I'm like, Okay,
Yeah,
really? So you're telling me that someone harassing me is okay? And
it's
when you
funny.
report to Twitter, either you don't get a response or you get a big fuck you, and
Yeah,
people continue.
this guy recently, this guy, he was saying all kinds of horrible, nasty things
Mm,
to the extent where Twitter actually suspended his account. And so he
really?
posted, so he created another account and he says, this fraud, Jonathan Scott, got my other Twitter account suspended. He got my other Twitter account suspended. So this is my new one. And he had like 2,000 followers, something like that. And he's like, and so anyways, I found his account and I blocked him again. And because Twitter's nasty. Like if they block you first, they can still post on your feed.
Mm-hmm.
Nasty little thing, right? Nasty little thing that they do. But anyway, so yeah, actually, I reported this person because they were saying like vulgar things. Like, you can harass and you can make your memes and your remixes and whatever, but don't start saying nasty stuff. Like, just, I'm not, this is not how I even roll in real life, right? Like, I'm not going to talk like it was like a 16-year-old kid, like that kind of dirty, nasty, shit. I'm not down with it. So anyways, yeah, he got his account suspended, but everyone else, same thing. It doesn't violate our rules. You can talk about, whatever the hell you want ever,
Yeah, well, you look at Twitter and the way that they reacted to, let's say, different political parties, and they're definitely politicized, right? They're very, very
Oh
liberal
yeah,
when it comes to that.
definitely. They're left. They're
And
super left.
super left. And when you
Yep,
watch,
I'm not even on Twitter, and I know.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh yeah. I mean,
and when you
probably
watch
the reason why I'm not verified is because I'm not left.
Yeah.
And
exactly. And when you watch,
I don't even bother with it anymore. Like, fuck it, I'll never get verified.
No. And when you watch what they did with like the Taliban and allow the Taliban to continue having an account on Twitter, and the same thing with Putin, still had an account on Twitter, but what happened to the Republicans? Let's take Trump, for instance. Where is his Twitter account now? So here's a social media platform that's supposed to be for everyone, right? For the people, but they're definitely politicized, and they definitely allow people to troll. I mean, it's black and white. They do it every day. I can't count how many people I had to report when I got attacked, and nobody got affected. And I thought, if this doesn't violate your code of conduct, then I don't know what does, because I've gotten direct threats. I've had, threats of physical, harm to myself or to people around me, but they allowed that shit.
Yep.
And it was like, wait a minute, and we wonder why kids get bullied and why kids commit suicide, because they get bullied on the internet, because jackasses like Twitter allow that to happen, because they're politicized, and they want that kind of disconnect and that kind of friction, because it fuels their platform.
But it seems like they want, so they want people to make more accounts to make it seem like, oh, we have like all these users and we have, and I'm like, do you know how many people I block a day that have made like 0 followers, 0 following, like no picture, just account created today? And yeah, exactly. And I'm just like, what the hell? I mean, to the extent where I was like, what the hell is it? There was a guy. He was super drunk. He was super drunk one day and just talking all kinds of bullshit to me in DMs and talking about my wife and this and this. And I'm like, okay, whatever, and then finally he's like, I do this for a living. And I was like, what do you do? He's like, I spam. And he's like, yeah, he's literally admitted to me that he's a spammer for hire. That's his full-time job. And I'm like, I guess, I mean, if you're good at it, whatever, do your thing, right? But like, that's thanks for like confirming, what everybody's like, no, this isn't real. This is not spam farms. Like, it's like all, it's all like QAnon bullshit, you're reading. I'm like, no, this is real. Like, if you go to, there's a site called, like, I think it's called Player Up. Mm-hmm. You can buy a verified Twitter account for $2,500, and it has like 40,000 followers, and it's got like, a great reputation score on it, and you can buy it, and they just keep making them. Like, there's just, and it's legit. These are legit. I mean, we're talking like, there's 2 verified accounts for Bored Apes. So these Bored Apes, that they said that they were the co-founders. They're not the co-founders. they were literally sending you to like literally a place where they can just steal your money, and people started stealing the money. And I posted hey, don't click on this, that they're fake, that's not the actual co-founders of the Bored Apes, don't click on it. They've stolen $18,000 so far. I've actually traced it out. And of course the trolls come behind me and they're like, oh, you're an idiot, 18,000, you have the weakest posts ever, you don't have any sort of like you don't have substantial content, like, wow, this. I'm like, why did you have the need? Like, I'm trying to help people, like people are getting scammed. But then again, if it's affecting their business,
right,
that's where it comes into play. And here's one last thing. I was told in a Twitter space that one of the reasons why I was getting trolled so hard for the CBEs that I got and saying, oh, it's not real, it's fake, and we're going to try to get it taken down, is because there were some people that were actually making money off of this exploit.
Oh.
And it was, yeah, and it was funny
Mhm.
because they were and talking about diversity, these are females that create malware. That's what they do for a living. Like they're badasses making malware and using these exploits to get paid. And so it trickled down and said, yeah, these women are pissed off at you because you've taken part of their revenue stream by this patch. And I was like, well, first off, that's badass. That's pretty.
That is pretty pimp.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. I mean, honestly, it's like Marcus Hutchins and I kind of get into it, but I think he's pretty fucking awesome. Like, honestly, I think he's really fucking awesome. We have our back and forth, but I think he's really cool at what he does. Just malware development in itself is pretty amazing. Whatever you do with your life, that's your life. I don't, not for me to judge, but the point is that that's one of the things that was upsetting them, was that they lost a revenue stream. So
destroying their business model.
a little bit have to kind of rethink things.
Yeah, that's kind of why I'm sitting on that one exploit that I've been working on for so long. I've got the NDA going and I can't really talk about it, but it's one of those things where I sat on it for a while and I thought I could just release this and watch the world go to smoke. But
definitely with what you got.
You were talking about
for
building
sure.
you're talking about building a weapon, and it rang in my head. I was like, wait a minute, I had this conversation before. And the power, I think another thing that attracts me to it too is the amount of power that you sit on with those types of exploits and vulnerabilities. I haven't let it eat me up, but trust me, knowing that I have that leverage is definitely something. I wake up in the morning, I feel good about myself because I do have that leverage in my pocket. But again, it could toast the world if I released it. So I just, I'm doing the right thing and trying to, keep it quiet until I have the talk with the guys in suits. Guys, 100%. It has been a fantastic fucking podcast. I really enjoyed it. It was more of a panel discussion, I think. And I think that, I want to do more of these in the future because, I want to have leaders and people who push the envelope on the podcast and not just, personalities. I want to have real movers and shakers. And I think you guys represent exactly what that is. Any last thoughts before we go? Jonathan, start with you. Any last thoughts?
Oh man, it's always a pleasure to be on your podcast. I love it. It's super cool. Looking forward to the next one.
I appreciate it, Jonathan. Hector, anything, last thoughts?
Well, no, just for everybody out there trying to get into the field, nothing is going to come to you for free. Nothing for free, meaning that you don't have to pay. For free means that you have to do the work. And Jonathan, it's a pleasure to meet you. And hopefully I'm going to stay in touch with you. And if you ever need anything, or if anybody out there listening need anything, just holla,
Cool.
I appreciate everything.
Absolutely. So I just want people to be nice to each other. The documentary I did today, the taping was really kind of impactful. It was about kids and how we need to look out for the next generations. And I think what we're doing on this podcast and what we're doing as individuals is doing just that. So keep doing what you're doing, guys. I really appreciate it. And with that, I'll go ahead and end this one, and I'll see you guys next time. Thanks, guys.